This is a place.
This is the place?
This is a place. We want to talk about. This is a place. Welcome to this week's episode of This is a Place. My name is Nate, and with me is a guy that only knows 25 letters of the alphabet. He doesn't know why. Brandon.
Of course I know why. Always wearing a Y.
Why?
I saw this funny graphic that said the top 12 hockey college teams, and one of them was a school with a Y on it.
Yale?
Yeah, but everybody was saying, hey, it's BYU.
Yeah, their logo looks an awful lot like ours. I think BYU has a hockey team. I don't know if it's like a club or if it's. I do follow a little bit the volleyball for both men and women's when they're doing well. And then girls soccer at BYU has done pretty well the last few years. So I've followed a little bit there. But obviously basketball and football is the two big ones. And they just released BYU's football schedule.
I was going to say, we run the risk of becoming a full-on BYU podcast, how much we talk about them, but it is fitting we're recording this today. And
well, today, as you can see, listeners can't see, I've got my Salt Lake Real hat on.
yeah.
I got my Utah Jazz jacket on.
Oh boy.
And then I got a BYU shirt on underneath. So I'm hitting all the good teams today.
All the important teams.
All the important teams. The only thing I'm missing is, I was asking my wife, I'm like, how do I put something on that would be like the Salt Lake Bees?
What about the Grizzlies?
And the Grizzlies. Yeah. So I don't know what I could do to have all five.
Some socks.
Ooh.
You could do
I have any
Bee socks, Grizzly underwear. Actually, your underwear might already be Grizzly.
I might as well. I need to get a tattoo. I think that's the way to solve it. I should have a tattoo of every good sports team in Utah.
Or earrings.
Ooh, get my ears pierced.
You could also shave something into your head.
Ooh, I've done that before. I've done jazz in my head before. I can just
Of course
do
you
that.
did.
And then when I was a kid, I did it a few times.
That's cool.
Or just get a tattoo. Then it'd be permanent. I could have like all the teams. And then as soon as I got all the tattoos, they would either change the name or the logo.
Or add or take away a team.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good point. So
this
never
is a little
mind
bit on topic,
tattoos.
bringing up Real and Bees. I saw an article from the Tribune that someone was saying what they should do with that, other than just make it a Spirit Halloween store for the Bees Stadium. Turn it into the new home of Real Salt Lake, which, does that make sense?
Move the Real team there?
Yeah, I mean, they just built the other stadium not too long ago. And they said it's more accessible, which I guess if you count, it's further out of Salt Lake, a couple miles south, but it's still pretty easy to get to.
But the thing is, you would have to, I don't know how you refurbish the stadium they have now to make it a soccer stadium. You would almost have to tear it down and start over. Right?
Is there, at least in its current state, yeah, because there's not seating all around it.
Unless if, I don't know how they would do it.
Because they could build more seats on the other side and make it, I don't know.
But like it'd be fine if like, you know how like sometimes they'll do like a hockey game or even like a football game in a baseball stadium.
Yeah.
but it's just like a one and done type thing. I don't know how you could do a permanent location with the baseball stadium because it's just a different field. It's a diamond. It's not a square or rectangle like all the other sports. So
Right. Yeah, I don't know. I just saw that and I thought it was interesting that that was their suggestion. But then there, if they move a soccer team, what do you then do with this still not that old stadium out there in Sandy?
yeah, yeah. What do you do with that? That's a good question.
Guess just do an NFL stadium. I don't know.
Yeah, just make it bigger. Oh man, can you imagine if they did an NFL stadium there? Like parking would, I mean, parking's already bad enough as it is with Real
Oh yeah,
there, but it would be horrific
that
with
would be bad.
they would have to have like quadruple decker parking garage type things nearby. And then it would just be a nightmare. I would take tracks for sure if I ever went.
At least that, yeah, Trex is a good in that area, right? But as for now, it's just our speculation, just the rumor
Yeah.
mill.
Somebody on the news the other day said it's like, because it's 2 years out, right? Before they leave. It's like knowing somebody has cancer and they're going to die in 2 years. Like it's still here, but it's not going to be permanent. Like that's a good way to, I guess, to put it.
It's a pretty
Um,
dire way to put it.
yeah, it's pretty doom and gloom way to put it. But well, are you done with the cold weather yet?
I think we're all done with the cold weather. I don't think
Oh
it's
my
done with us
goodness.
though.
Hey, do you know how you can tell it's cold outside?
How's that?
You go outside and it's cold.
Really?
Yeah. Holy crap, these last
It
couple
is.
days.
I'm
It's
glad we're not
unbearable.
up north because my brother is in Logan and they're getting weather advisories for wind chills,
Uh-huh.
super negative weather. We should eventually go out to, can we even get to Peter Sinks? Is that an accessible place?
I don't know.
But that yesterday reached the coldest in all of the nation at negative 64 degrees.
Isn't that the like it's the coldest place basically on Earth?
That's what they say. And yeah, with negative 64, that's pretty dang cold.
Oof. Wow. Yeah, it's like what, single digits right now,
Yeah.
especially at night, which is nice because my garage just turns into a very super cold refrigerator. So I can buy more stuff than I need when I'm at the store when it's on sale. So that's a good part of winter.
Yeah.
But other than that, just it's too cold.
I am very glad that I'm not working out of my garage anymore.
Oh my goodness, today would be horrific. Well, Groundhog Day is coming up, so we'll find out soon enough if warm
If it's
weather's on
going
the
to end or
horizon.
not. Yep.
Actually, won't this be released on Groundhog's Day?
No, it'll be released on the 1st.
Oh, today's Tuesday. I thought today was Monday.
So happy Groundhog's Day tomorrow.
Yeah,
Make sure you get out your. Does anybody celebrate Groundhog's Day? How do you celebrate it?
by
By
watching
staying
Groundhog's Day
inside
and watching Groundhog's Day.
and watching, yeah, watch the movie or just stay inside and wish that this coldness would come to an end. It should be like a summer party. Should have like a whole like tiki theme, like a summer beach party.
Well, you know how they do like Christmas in July. What's the opposite of that? Summer in January, summer in February,
Yeah, something like that.
pool party.
Because it's like August would be the halfway point. Either way, it's too cold, and hopefully this ends soon. It's dreary. We just keep getting sick. We can't come out of it. Keeps messing up all my New Year's resolution goals.
Uh,
It's no good.
I haven't really even started mine yet. So,
And we're gonna start our gym. Let's shoot for next week.
right.
We keep pushing it off. I think we're gonna have to push it off a little bit more, but
The one thing I do like about going to the gym in the winter is that I can go into the dry sauna and defrost for like 10 minutes
yeah,
before going and hitting it. But
you still have
they
to
ever,
brave getting to the front door of the gym to even do that.
oh man, it's been brutal.
But hey, we've talked about some interesting stuff, some sports stuff. We've got the Super Bowl coming up. Maybe we can talk a little bit as that gets closer. Talked about BYU and their schedule being released. Why don't we just talk more about BYU for the rest of the episode?
We could.
We kind of will, but more BYU's namesake.
So I have a hoodie I've been wearing all winter long that says Brigham City Memorial Pickleball Tournament. Memorial Day, sorry, Memorial Day Pickleball Tournament. I met Smith's the other day. I don't know why Smith's cashiers love to talk to me, but they love to talk to me. I have that look. Like,
Do they tell
hey,
you about donuts too?
donuts? No. But he saw me wearing the Brigham City hoodie, and he comes up to me, "Oh, you're from Brigham City?" And I kind of looked at him like, "Huh?" Then I looked down like, "Oh, no, no, it's just a sweater, dude, or a hoodie." He's like, "Oh, I thought you were from Brigham City." I'm like, people can wear shirts from other cities and not be from that place. I
Is that
didn't
what
say
you
that
told
to
him?
him. I wanted to. That's what I thought. I'm like, no, I just did a tournament up there. And he's like, oh, what kind of tournament? I'm like, oh my goodness, it says right here on my sweat. I'm like, pickleball. And like, they have a really, really cool pickleball facility up there. It's just, and it's a really cool town. I said, I would love to live in Brigham City. Like, I love Brigham City. It's a cool small town and quiet. And it's crazy that they do have one of the best pickleball facilities, outside pickleball facilities in the state, and it's in a really small town. They even do professional tournaments there. It's called TOC, Tournament of Champions. But now with all these pickleball getting the popularity it's getting in other places, building facilities, now the pros don't want to go to Brigham City anymore. Imagine that.
It's too far.
Well, it's just like, what do you do in Brigham City, right? They have like two hotels and a gas station, maybe two, but yeah, it was just kind of funny, fun conversation. And then I was playing pickleball on Saturday, and my friend who I played the tournament with was wearing his hoodie as well.
Whoa.
And I'm like,
You
hey,
both
we're
are from
wearing,
Brigham
yeah,
City.
he was wearing different, he got a different color one. So I'm like, hey, we're both wearing our Brigham City hoodies. And he's like, oh, did you know there's a movie called Brigham City? And I'm like, as a matter of fact, I just watched it last night. So what are the odds? I'm like, I literally just got done watching it last night. So we talked a little bit about that. And the reason I watched it is because we, as a podcast, wanted to talk about this movie and all the wonderful things this movie has to offer.
You say it like that. Everybody's buddies gearing up for another one of Nate's dreaded movie watching or book reading, all the things I put you through for the podcast. But you suggested it for this one. So
Yeah, this one I actually do enjoy. I think it's one of the better LDS films
yeah.
made. Um, what would you say the best LDS film is?
The best Elias film, The
Like you,
Testaments.
the what?
The Testaments.
The Testaments? Okay. I mean, like mainstream.
All right. I don't
Something
know.
that
I
was
think
something that could or would have been, or basically theater type.
something that other people would watch, or you say more from a, you kind of have to be from the church to enjoy it.
I guess it could be both.
I
Like
think
something that you would like, yeah. What one would you if you had
Napoleon Dynamite probably.
true, but that I wouldn't count that as an LDS
That one
film.
doesn't count. It
Sorry.
doesn't. talk
That's not
about
going
the
to be entered
church.
in LDS. Isn't there an LDS film festival they have down at the Sierra?
I think so.
Something like that. But
I don't know to say the best. I think the most well done. I think the singles word is really good.
I'd say singles board would be up
Or
there
best
for
two
sure.
years, probably. That one
Yeah. Hmm.
maybe needs to be a little more. I mean, both of them you need to kind of be in the church to understand and enjoy. I mean, I could see you enjoying the best 2 years outside of the church. Maybe it's a little. There's things in it that maybe wouldn't land as well, but
You would
that
have
one's
to have a good
really well
concept of
done.
what a mission was, right? To really understand
Yeah,
it.
and I mean, singles word too. It's really well done, and the comedy's great. But outside the church, I don't think that one would land. It
Right.
wouldn't.
So I guess maybe inside Utah culture, I would agree with you. Singles board and best 2 years are probably the two easiest ones to watch and fun to watch
Yeah,
and not super like cringe G.
right.
But I would also I think Brigham City would do just fine outside of the Utah culture. And I think it's one of the better, it's a good film. I think it's a good kind of Netflix, Redbox type film. Like you don't feel like you're upset
Amazon
that you
Prime
spent,
type film.
yeah. And I feel like it's been on Prime for a while. I think,
I
here we
didn't know it
go.
was on Prime until you told me.
I just remembered after I told you I let you borrow my copy. I have a copy of it on DVD back when people you watch DVDs. I'm like, wait, I'm pretty sure I've seen a bunch of LDS films on Prime. So I'm like, I searched it. I'm like, there it is. But it does have 71% in Rotten Tomatoes. So that's pretty good.
Yeah, it's good on both the audience and critic
Yeah, and
rating.
79% of Google users like the movie. That's pretty good. So I think it's a good film. I think it was well written. Um, I think the story is really good. So overall, it's a fun movie to watch. So I don't think you need to necessarily be LDS. I guess it would help if you knew the LDS culture a little bit, or if you knew what religion was, Christianity, then that might help too. But overall, I think it was a good movie. My only like kind of complaint about it is when I was watching it, even on Prime, which is supposed to be digital and high end, right? It didn't feel like you're watching a VHS movie, like the quality
Mm,
of it.
yeah.
So that's the only thing that kind of distracted from it. But it was also made in 2001 or came out in 2001, which means it was probably made in 2000. So it was made 22 plus years ago. And that's all we have for you. So go
Well, if
watch
you
it.
if you don't know about the movie Brigham City, just a quick synopsis of it. Well, the IMDb synopsis says the sheriff of a small Utah community searches for a serial killer. So there you go. That's what it's about. But so much more than that, right?
So much
It's
more.
it's interesting, and we'll get into the plot, but it's interesting how it had so much church stuff in it, but still felt removed enough that, like you said, someone else outside of the church could watch it. But there's so much in it, like so much of the church stuff.
That's true. That's a good point.
And we can get into some more of that and some interesting thoughts I have regarding that. But I did find some cool things before we talk a little bit of the plot. First, a shout out to, I think we've mentioned him on here before, Jacob Barlow. He's done a great job. He's got a blog, he's got a YouTube channel, all sorts of stuff that basically explores all of Utah in a lot of ways. I think he's done really well, especially with the movie locations. And he had a little bit more of a connection to this one because he actually grew up. His next door neighbor was Richard Dutcher, who wrote and directed the movie and who was the sheriff in the movie. And he was even asked, he was 16 or so at the time, to be an extra in it, but they didn't think it was cool, so they declined to be in the movie. But um, the funny thing about it, you know how much of this movie was filmed in Brigham City?
Uh-uh.
None of it.
Really?
Yeah. It's called Brigham City, which is interesting because, well, it doesn't even mention Brigham City in the movie.
It just says Brigham.
Brigham. And it's a fictional town in Kirtland County, Utah, which isn't an actual county. And it's really just, it's a fictional town. And at no point is it really saying it's in Brigham City, which is kind of funny to me. But all of
Uh,
it was filmed in Mapleton and Springville.
ah. Plus, that was filmed 22 years ago, where the Springville and, well, especially Mapleton was a lot smaller than it is now.
Yeah. And Brigham City didn't even have a traffic light back then, so probably wasn't the best place to film a movie.
Yeah, I was going to say that. Like, I didn't really recognize anything in the film from being from Brigham City. So I was like, I wondered that.
Yeah, I mean he lays it all out. He talks about like the sheriff's house at the beginning, a bridge at the mouth of Hobble Creek Canyon, Mapleton City Park, Springville Historic Cemetery, actually something on the BYU campus when they show a scene of the celebration, their Brigham Days or whatever, and they put a party hat on the Brigham Young statue at BYU. And then a bunch of some churches, other houses, and a bar, gas station, all sorts of stuff, all within the Springville, Mapleton area. So definitely would check out if you want to see those locations and the breakdowns. Jacob's got them all there on his blog. So thanks, Jacob. But I also found some fun movie facts that I was looking at. So after seeing the film, Brigham City, the mayor of the real Brigham City gave the director a key to the city. The director, Richard Dutcher, he also did movies like God's Army, which is another big one. I've never actually seen that one.
Seen it once because everybody, I was on my mission when this came out, God's Army, and all the newbies coming in were talking about it. Did they do God's Army 2?
I think so.
See, it's unfortunate because Richard has since left the church,
Yeah.
and so we don't get any more of his movies. Well,
Mm-mm.
these types of movies, I should say.
Yeah, and they were some good ones, right?
Yeah, I don't think his were too bad. The God's Army one was like not as good as Brigham City. We'll put it that
Yeah.
way.
We probably should we give a spoiler warning or should we not give away the ending of the movie? Maybe we should decide up front.
Yes, I don't think I can. I need to talk about the spoiler.
You need
So
to
if
talk
you,
about the spoiler.
I need to because I need I need some clarification.
Okay.
So
So let's should we go through some of the key points of the plot and
yeah,
get
and
to that point?
then we can say spoiler alert.
Okay. We won't say anything in between, but we'll give you a spoiler right before if you haven't seen the movie and you want to watch it before we ruin it. But yeah, so the premise it starts out with him, the sheriff. You know, he's just getting ready, kind of shows his day to day, and you get the vibe early on that he's a God fearing man and the sheriff, and everybody's greeting him as Bish or Bishop. And so you find out he's actually the bishop in one of the wards in the city, right?
Right.
The first thing that stuck out to me that I got excited to see was someone who worked at the sheriff's office with him, Mr. Wilford Brimley.
All I thought of was oatmeal the whole time I saw it.
Oatmeal, why? Did he do oatmeal commercials?
Yes.
I do want to fact check something that he said. So he said, well, first he told everyone they should all go straight to hell, which was great. And then he said he had maybe 15 or 20 more years, good years. And I wanted to fact check that because sadly he's passed on. So how much time between when he said that did he actually live?
He didn't die too long ago, right?
He died in August 2020, so which means he was just shy of making it the 20 years, like he said.
So he's right.
He was right.
His character was right about.
His character was right. I hope they were good. Another good 20 years that he had, but Anyways, it's cool because I mean he was a bigger movie star, I think, right? Like he was more well known
Yeah, yeah,
outside
yeah,
the church,
yeah,
and so it's cool
absolutely.
that he was able to be in this movie, kind of this indie lower budget movie, and played a pretty prominent role in it.
He did. One thing I found interesting, that kind of opening-ish scene, is that he's the bishop, right? And the sheriff, but everybody calls him Bishop. And the lady's like, there's seven, did she say 17 bishops
I don't
in
think it's
Brigham
that many.
City,
I
but
want to
yet
say
one sheriff? So I'm like, if you have 17 bishops in that town, I think you can justify having more than one sheriff
well, everybody in this
or
town
two
is
deputies.
a member except for the one guy that gets baptized. He becomes a member, and then the people that work for the construction company, and then the five people that go to the
But yeah,
bar.
the thing is, like, the movie makes it look like it's a really, really small town, but I'm like, but how do you have 17 bishops?
Well,
That means
that's
there's 17 wards.
yeah, and how many stakes?
How many states? So,
Math
anyways,
doesn't check out.
yeah. So I'm like, maybe she was being sarcastic when she said that.
Probably. She was very sarcastic.
She was.
I did like
She,
her comment when she pointed out that he had a mustache. She said bishops aren't supposed to have mustaches. And he said he's just trying to be more like Jesus. And she said, well, Jesus wouldn't be a smart aleck. And I thought that was pretty funny.
that's true. I wonder if Richard grew the mustache to make himself look older.
Mm.
And that might have been the purpose of it.
I do have a question. I mean, I know it varies, but is there a rule that you're in some kind of leadership calling in the church and you're not supposed to have facial hair? Like, is that written anywhere?
I don't know. That's a good question. I know I've had friends who've had mustaches that were in bishoprics, even beards. Um, when my I got called in to work at the Jordan River Temple shortly after I got married, and the guy says, "You know, you're gonna have to shave, right?"
Oh yeah.
So, because I had a goatee back then, I'm like, "Oh yeah," I just figured. So they wouldn't let us have facial hair there, but I don't know if there's an official thing saying you can or cannot.
I know it's like the unwritten rule. Well, that's what I'm asking. Is it unwritten or is it actually a rule? Who knows?
I bet you they ask at least the bishops to not have facial hair, but then again, didn't Brigham Young, BYU have a rule that you can't have facial hair,
That's a real rule.
but
That's
mustaches are okay.
yeah,
So
that's a real thing.
is that the
You can't
same
go
for
and take tests if you have
facial hair, but a
facial
mustache
hair.
is okay? So you see a
Right.
lot of the athletes growing out mustaches and not beards.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
interesting. But I think, I know this is getting way off topic, but I think the reason they made that rule was back in the whole kind of hippie era. They didn't want to be associated with us being hippies. And that's when the beard and short hair thing came to play. Because if you look at
Clean
a lot
cut.
of the last Latter day prophets, they have beards and
And
long hair.
Jesus himself, right?
So that's why I'm doing it, because I know it's going to come back. So I'm going to grow my hair out, my beard. But sometimes it can help you keep you out of callings. So
We are advocating for it to be brought back, that we
brought
can
back.
all wear facial hair again.
How funny would that be?
Probably not going to happen, but who
So,
knows? Anyway,
but you know how
um,
Richard got the idea for the movie?
no,
That he was passing by a gazebo in a small park in Mapleton on his way out of town, heading to Los Angeles when he was going to prepare the DVD version of God's Army. He said, "That's a cool looking gazebo. What kind of movie could you do with that as the centerpiece?" Says by the time he got to LA, he figured out what he was going to do. So,
centerpiece, huh?
which is funny because now whenever I see a gazebo, I think of Brigham City, the movie. So I guess it worked. He did it.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
I don't have that connection.
I just wonder how I'm going to hide the body underneath the gazebo.
Yeah, there you
How
go.
to get the body under there with, and then spoiler, I guess, the
Well, it's a
killer puts
murder
a
mystery. That's not a
the
spoiler.
murderer puts a body under there, but he gets him in there and puts the gazebo back together without anybody noticing.
Plot hole. It's the only
So
one in this movie that
that's it.
gets a pass.
That's it. Yo, there's a couple more have to do with
There's
the
more.
twist. I got questions. I
What are the
got
next big things
questions.
to talk about? They make a comment that there's a church on every corner, which is true. A lot of shade thrown at country music throughout this movie, especially in the beginning. Everybody hating on the country music. Um, let's see. Where the guy says, so there's the sheriff, and then he's got his deputy. What's his name?
Ooh.
Ryan? Terry? I think Terry is his name. And you also find out, we don't hear until later in the movie, that the sheriff's wife and son were killed somehow.
It's a car accident. Well, we're not supposed to say that yet.
Yeah, well, I'm saying, yeah, you find out later, but at the beginning, you see him taking the flowers to the grave. It's almost like he puts a new rose on the grave every single day, on the two graves.
Because he
And
doesn't know what happened, but yet he feels guilty about it.
yeah,
He was the one driving.
and yeah, and it's a lot of him and this deputy going around together, and the deputy complaining that nothing happens in the town, and the sheriff's kind of like, that's a good thing, you know. And there's even comments about people in the town, they don't lock their doors, and he doesn't want them to. So when it gets to the point that they're driving along and they see a red car off to the side, they go and investigate it, and then they find the first body in a shed or something.
Well, that was my ethical question from the first one I had was he doesn't want anybody in town to know about it because he doesn't want to scare people. But at the same time, shouldn't people know that somebody got murdered not too far away from your doorstep? But maybe
Yeah, I
it's because he
mean,
thought at that time that it was like maybe an out of towner and that he was passing through, and I don't know.
but like, who would have
But
killed that out of towner?
right, so that's why I'm like, how secretive he was about keeping a secret, and it also shows dates the movie because he uses a disposable camera to take his crime scene pictures,
Yeah,
and he makes somebody in his congregation develop the film, but he tells him to keep his mouth shut. Like,
mm-hmm.
well, Bishop, you kept my secrets, I'll keep yours.
Well, he kept the
So
secrets for a while.
so it's too bad it wasn't 20 years or 10 years later when he could just use his phone to take the pictures. But
Yeah, that would have been a lot more convenient.
whoever killed that person in the car, I'm like, don't you think they would have pushed the car behind that shed?
Well, I mean, maybe it was a crime of passion thing that it was just
Maybe he
happened.
wanted to get caught, like he wanted the thrill of the chase,
Maybe
you know?
that can be argued.
So just interesting.
It did make me wonder. I mean, I haven't really lived in a time where we could really like live without locking our doors. I don't feel like my life has ever been like that. Is there any place in Utah where people can still feel safe not locking their doors?
That's a good question. I bet you some of the smaller towns probably still be that way. I feel like growing up, our house, front door wasn't always locked, especially in our teenage years where we were coming and going so often. And a lot of times at night, it just was left open. Because there was a few times where one of our friends would get off of work around 9 or 10 and come to our house, open the door. We're like, is anybody awake? Guess not. See ya. And shut the door, which means the door wasn't locked.
Yeah, we're at the point. Well, my wife is doesn't like the idea of the doors not being locked. So if there's ever been a night when we've gone to bed and wake up and our front door is unlocked or whatever, it's like threat level midnight.
Yeah.
It's
Small panic.
Yeah, we're happy we're fine, but it's like, oh my gosh, we left our door open. What could have happened? Could you see the videos? People going around checking doors, checking car doors. It is just a scarier world we live in. And that, I mean, even then, this was 20 years ago, and it's probably, well, it's way worse than it was back then. So I don't know. I wonder if there's people that still live in a place they feel like they can do that.
Our house has one of those electronic locks with the code,
Uh-huh.
and after 5 minutes, it locks. So our door is almost always locked. So if you want to, here's a little tip: if you want to rob us, you need to get in our house within like 5 minutes of us leaving. Well, and that's assuming we didn't push the lock button on the way out. So,
Right. You could probably do it from your phone too, right?
mm-hmm. So
I guess you can break
different
into our
times,
house
man.
if
Because
we
like
forget
growing
to
up,
lock our door.
yeah. But growing up, like you, even if you locked it at night, it was open all day, right? So, but nowadays it's even more so that doors are always locked.
Yeah.
Interesting. And it all happened because of the murders in Brigham City.
That's what started it.
That's what started it.
Well, when they get there and they find the body and they're taking, I guess the coroner, whoever gets there, they said they're going to do an autopsy in Provo, which at first I heard that I was like, dang, that's pretty far to travel from Brigham City all the way down to Provo. But given that this actually took place near Provo, it makes a lot more sense now.
And I love how the corner says, "Never thought I'd take a business trip to Brigham City."
So then they go on and they think everything's okay. It was just this one off murder, right? And they have their
It's supposed to be an isolated incident.
isolated incident, right?
Hush, hush. Keep it hush, hush. Nobody's supposed to know.
They go on doing their Brigham Young celebration. They've got a parade complete with Cub Scouts and in front of a church, all the
And a
things you'd
marching
expect.
band.
A marching band, yeah. I do wonder if this was an actual parade they already had, or if they put on the parade for the movie.
Ooh, that's a good question.
Low budget, I'm assuming it was probably
It was made for nine hundred
Mapleton
thousand dollars.
Days. For how much?
900,000, just under a million.
Yeah, that probably
That's like 2 million nowadays.
that'd been like the whole parade budget.
Oh yeah, but you know how we would be willing to do any extra work just to be in a movie. People here in Utah.
Like, yeah, I mean, I'd have done it, but
So
so yeah, they decorate the statue in that scene. Everybody has a good time. You find out more about his deputy, that he's got a wife and a little kid and another baby on the way.
mm-hmm.
There's a guy that talks about how he's getting baptized soon. And then at the parade or at the celebration, the FBI agents show up and
Stick out like sore thumbs.
yeah, yeah,
Is that a requirement that they have to wear black trench coats and sunglasses, or is that just a movie thing?
it's a trope. That's just what you look for. Did you recognize the FBI lady?
Uh-uh.
That is Joseph Smith's mom
Joseph Smith's mom?
from the old Joseph Smith movie videos and movies. The ones you see at Temple Square. That's
Oh,
his
really?
mom. Yeah. She's in a lot of church movies. And I didn't know she actually passed away in 2015.
Really?
She's also in this really horrible movie I watched as a kid called Return with Honor or something like that. You ever
Oh,
seen that
really?
movie?
It sounds familiar.
This guy gets home from his mission and he gets in a car accident. And in it, he has like a vision that he only has a set amount of time to get things done, like basically baptize his mom before he dies.
Huh.
It's
So maybe
really
not.
it's really bad, but the mom is the FBI agent. So she's in quite a few things. And also Joseph Smith's dad is in this movie. He doesn't play a very big role, which is not common for him because he usually plays a bigger role in the movies he's in. Like he's in the Testaments, he's Helam. So he's not happy that the FBI agents are there, but then they're talking with him. One of them is a Jack Mormon, apparently. And Then we get, which I feel like is one of the weirdest scenes and the craziest to me that was included in the movie, is this next part. And you basically see a whole church meeting.
Well, the sacrament portion, right?
Yeah, the sacrament portion, including not in this part, but in the later part, an entire sacrament prayer.
Right.
And you see him passing the sacrament, all that stuff. And it was, I must say, kind of uncomfortable to watch. What did you feel about it?
I kept thinking that they would at least start the prayer, then cut
Cut it off.
cut off, and but I'm like, oh wow, they're doing the whole thing.
I just thought that was kind of taboo to include and to film. Like they never want you filming, recording stuff. So it felt very weird to have that and a baptism, a full baptism later
That's true.
shown
With the
in
prayer.
with the prayer. Like the person actually got baptized if you want to get technical.
That's true. Well, I think they cut. Though, anyways, I don't know if that counts or not, but
Maybe not, but the sacrament, yeah, like that was basically a legit sacrament meeting. And so one funny thing he said was he was sad to report that a family in the ward was moving 3 blocks away, which was a very, very Utah thing. So they were staying in the ward.
hey, that's our last move was less than a mile east in different ward, not different state, but different ward.
Mine too, less than a mile west from where I came from.
And you are in a different state.
And I am. So you come out of that, and you also see him. You see a Sunday school class, and one of the FBI agents is in there. And could they be any less welcoming to her?
Less welcoming. Is that what you
Yeah,
said?
I mean,
I know.
they
That's
recognize her.
that one that made me cringe a little bit more than the sacrament scene, just
It was cringy.
because you do read, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm like, number one, you don't recognize her. So why are you calling on somebody sitting in the back trying to be mind their own business
You
to
already didn't do your job at the beginning by recognizing them and asking
right?
their name. And now you're making them all uncomfortable.
And then when she said, "Hey, I'm not a member," I think that should have been good enough. But that's what we do here. It's
Yep. And I think they were still in the sacrament, or the not the sacrament, in church when your gazebo body is found.
well, I guess it was after church and they're doing their church meetings. Because I
Yeah,
was in here in the bishop's office with some people. So you're like, I bet you they were having their after church meetings.
right. Makes sense.
And that's when he runs over there and rips apart the gazebo. And you're like, so how did he get her under there in the first place? And then you're just like, oh, dun, 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 another murder.
Yep.
And this one he can't hide from anybody.
Congratulations, Sheriff. You have a serial killer in town.
And then the girl who gets killed was it like Miss Teen, Brigham City? She was in the
I
parade.
felt like that was kind of the. They never come out and say it,
Say what?
who it was.
Yeah, they do.
Do they?
Yeah, it's the girl because she's wearing the sash, the Brigham City Queen's sash,
Oh, that's
and
right.
it's his first counselor or second counselor's daughter.
Yeah. What's his name? Rick Macy?
Yeah, so it was the yeah. So I think
It
that's
was
why because they kind of have a scene with her riding in the parade,
yeah.
and then she gives somebody a crusty.
A
Did you
what?
notice that? Like she gives somebody a crusty, like they look at her anyways. But that's yeah, how you're supposed to know
Yeah,
when
that
she
makes
gets killed
sense.
that it was
Yeah.
her.
Okay, I wasn't sure. I must have missed that part, but I thought that it was her because there's a scene they show her like riding the car. I'm like, I think she's the one that dies, but I
And
didn't.
then he goes over to their house to break the news.
Ugh,
And this is it still kind of bugs me to this day because now we don't have landlines, we have cell phones.
yeah,
But in my opinion, like if I'm talking to somebody face to face, they get my attention, right? It's the same aspect as if I'm talking to you in a crowd. or you're talking to somebody in a crowd and I just walk up to you and butt in and have a conversation with you. It's like, no, I'm already talking to this person. I'll talk to you when I'm done.
Right.
But it kind of, I mean, it was part of the movie. And my wife and I always get upset about like plots and stuff and like, why did they do this? Why did they do that? And I'm like, I think they did it for the movie. You know, it's like, it's part of, that's why it's a movie. But the phone rings and he's like, oh, hold on, Bishop. Let me go answer the phone and interrupt
Yeah.
you.
People don't do
Like,
that.
it's a really, like, come on. Like, if they keep calling back, then you know it's an emergency, then you need to go pick up. But I'm like, it just drives me nuts that people that pick up the phone. But
Well,
so
why
that's
was
number one nut thing that drove me nuts. And this,
who was calling and telling him this though?
yeah, well, that's just the thing, and the funny thing is that's like true. That's our culture, man. That's what people do. Like they get so. I mean,
Mm.
Facebook is now the way that you communicate stuff. But as soon as you know something, you're like on Facebook going, "I know this, I know that," you know, and I need to. But who the heck calls? I guess maybe they were calling to say I'm sorry or something. But then again, it was just part of the movie.
Yeah, but it was
But
that
Bishop's like, no, don't, or
this
sheriff,
is I
don't
mean,
answer
so
the phone.
first when the other person dies, it's like whatever. We don't know who she was, no big deal. But this is when the movie gets like real and you can really feel like I got anxiety watching the scene and as the family realizes what has happened, right? It
Right.
was a pretty stressful moment.
And the poor mom sitting over there not knowing what's she's just crying.
She's just assuming like, oh well, she's
Oh, what's
dead.
going on?
Yeah, it was bad. And it gets to the point that Wilford ends up being deputized like he's wanted. And so he takes a bigger role in helping in the proceedings of the movie. Like he was asking in the beginning of the movie, he just wants to be a deputy again because he was a cop before, but he retired. His wife must have passed away, and so he's looking for something to do. And being in the force again, I guess was his way of doing it. And this is when they point out that he's swearing to the Constitution of Utah. This movie does actually take place in Utah and is in Kirtland County, which does not exist. And I'm gonna be honest, I from here I kind of stopped taking notes because it really becomes more about like I'm looking for when we're doing something like this, I'm looking for the Utah tie-ins, those types of things. And that kind of all just takes secondary to the whole plot and them trying to find the murderer at this point. I mean, you do
So
hear about his finally hear about his wife and how him and the wife and son died, and he went into a coma for 8 days. And they even had the funeral and everything without him because they thought he was going to die too.
yeah, how miserable would that be?
It's terrible.
Um, quick question for you. Was this your first time watching the movie?
No, I'd seen it before.
Okay. So you knew who the murderer was.
I did.
Okay. It's a little different watching it knowing from the beginning who the murderer is.
It does. You kind of watch for hints,
But
but as I was reading online, there's a lot of red herrings in this movie. Like they try and set it up that it could be 5 or 6 different people.
true. Well,
There's
they
a
really have
scene
that
where
one guy,
which oh the baptism guy.
the porn guy.
Oh yeah, so there's the porn guy. That's a terrible scene too.
That's that one.
But
I'm just like that
this
one's
one also
cringeworthy because you're like
another
number
plot hole.
one. Well, here's the deal. I even told my wife after we watched it. So basically, for those who care to know or haven't seen it or don't want to see it, is they gather everybody in town because another girl goes missing, right? And they gather the whole town to go knocking door to door, basically without a warrant, and search everybody's
Yes.
house.
Yeah,
And then they get to, and the guy's house that they want to get into is actually out helping search for people. And
just him and his
his mom
mom.
won't let him in. And so the sheriff comes over and makes him come over and forces their way in. I'm just like, man, number one, I guess one, if he was hiding the girl and she's still alive, I guess you save a life. But as far as prosecuting that guy, you're screwed because you didn't have a warrant to, you know what I mean? Like he would get off because of
It's not.
not
It's
following protocol.
right.
But even after everything, and they spoiler alert, they don't find the girl. He's not the murderer.
They just find his porn
He's just
collection.
trying to hide the fact that he has porn hidden in his house, like a porn closet. Um,
Why does his mom know about it?
and why is his glasses broken? That's what I want to know too. um, Geez, but man, that guy would have such a reason to sue the city.
Yeah.
So
He then ends up after they still take him in, which I don't know why they took him in. I guess because he's the only person in town that looked at porn, so that made him.
maybe that made him still a suspect. He was still a suspect after they don't
Yeah,
find the girl. And
and they don't let him go either. They keep him in there long enough, and I think at this time they were still running fingerprints because they go to a bar too. It's another weird thing. They go to the bar and they take everybody's bottles and run fingerprints on them. Which another thing someone even brings up. I think the deputy, he says, we can't actually use this in court if we find it. If we find the person from this, and they say no, it's just going to help us find a suspect. All right,
well, at
but
the same time, weren't they still trying to find that girl because they hadn't found the body yet?
yeah,
And so that was still his thing, thinking that she's still alive. So I think he was breaking rules to hopefully save a girl's life, I think was his
and it's a
logic.
small town, and everything also was sanctioned by the FBI. So I mean, they probably wouldn't have stood for them doing all that kind of stuff, but
Sure. Well,
it
they're
is
the
what
ones
it
that
is.
loaned them the fingerprinting machine, right?
Yeah,
But
and
I guess they were trying.
this was earlier in the movie, but it's funny. So they bring all the men of the town, all the men from the church, to go and search the houses too. There's another point earlier in the movie when they ask all the young men in the whole city to go and pass
Okay.
out
Yes.
flyers,
Yes.
which was so awesome because that's so just like such a Utah thing, such a church
Well,
thing to
I
do.
was just thinking too how things have changed. Like you could within 30 seconds get word out to everybody on social media now, right? Isn't that crazy to think how times have changed that much in 20 years?
Yeah, but don't you guys still do flyers in your ward?
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, yeah. But in that case, like I guess you could have blasted it really quickly, like we need help, and word would have got out. But my
Yeah,
favorite part about that is it's like I'm guessing it's just a weekday afternoon, but yet all the deacons are dressed up in white shirts and ties passing out flyers. I'm like, yeah, right.
yeah, they're not getting dressed up
We're
for
not
that.
gonna
No
dress up for
chance.
that. No way. Not just pass out flyers.
Yeah. And so after they find out it's not that guy, they're still running prints and it's taking them some time, right? So, okay, so as I mentioned, the red herrings, there's a scene where the FBI lady gets a flat tire or something, and the
Mm-hmm.
construction guy comes up to her. And you're thinking, oh, maybe he's the killer. He's going to kill her too.
Right. She's
There's
gonna pulls out
that.
her
There's
gun.
the porn guy who you think might be be it. There's the guy that's just got baptized and is getting married to the lady. And that's probably the biggest red herring. Is there anything else we missed?
No, I think it was just really those three guys, right?
Yeah, at least it was those three guys for sure. And so at the end, it's actually kind of funny because he's sitting there and he says a prayer. He's like, "What am I missing?" And then he sees this cup, and it's the cup for the baptism guy. You're like, "Oh, like he's thinking it's him." And he takes his fiance back to his house, and she's like, "No fooling around till we're married," kind of
But
thing.
even to spoil it even more, she gets in her car to go home to get some
Oh yeah,
sleep.
yeah,
And he's like the whole horror movie where he comes popping his head up in the back seat,
jump scare.
jump scare, right? And you're like,
Yeah,
oh, and he's like, I just fell asleep waiting for you.
right.
But even so, he does give her a bunch of creepy looks when
Oh
she's
yeah,
asleep. I'm like, oh,
he's just he's just excited for the wedding.
but even then, sure.
So he takes her, and this is like where all this is kind of happening. You're watching the sheriff as he's running prints, and he's like gets a match, and you're like, oh snap. And it shows the guy, he's at the house with her, and he pulls out a gun, and then there's like a knock at the door, and you see the sheriff knocking on the door. It's like, oh, is he gonna get there? And it's gonna be this guy. But the door opens, and who opens the door? This is the spoiler.
All right. So if you don't want to
If you
know
don't
the
want to
ending,
know,
this is
big
where you can.
spoiler message.
This is where we'll see you next week.
We'll see
Thanks
you
for
next
listening.
week.
Thanks for
Thanks.
listening.
Who opens the door? None other than his deputy.
But even then, at that point, you're like, oh, he's going to go talk to his deputy saying we found the guy.
Right.
Right. We need to go get him.
Yeah, and his wife's there. She kind of goes in the other room with because the baby starts crying and stuff, and he just sits down at the kitchen table with Terry, who's cleaning his gun,
Because he can't sleep.
and starts talking to him about some things he remembers. And he brings up a lot of things that kind of were touched on through the movie, but not hit really hard. Like there was this girl from a couple years ago who had left to California to go be in Hollywood, and nobody had ever heard of her from her since. And there was another girl that died in a rock climbing accident. And the connection being they all had red hair.
Well, one of the girls was blonde. The girl who left for LA, right? She was a
No,
blonde.
or
And then what's her name says, if she's a blonde, then I'm something rather.
oh
Like she's a
yeah,
natural
she
redhead.
right.
And that's where he's like, oh, everybody's a redhead.
But it was weird because the first girl that they found didn't have red hair. So he
But
has
he
this
made but he made
conversation with
sure she had red hair at the
she had red hair when he was done with her.
yeah. But
Yeah,
that's the only girl he didn't violate, right?
right. Which
Because
I
she
don't
was
know why they need to talk about that in the movie. I
right.
guess it makes sense, but there was even a scene where the guy's like, "Did he violate her?"
Well, they made sure we knew that he violated every girl besides the first one
Yeah,
because
I
she
don't know.
wasn't a true redhead.
Yeah, I guess so.
Anyways. But obviously, if you haven't figured out, it was the deputy who was killing everybody.
Killing all the
But they
redheads in
even
the
give you a
town.
little bit, what do they call it? Foreshadowing when he's talking to the construction worker.
Yeah.
If anyone's man did it, he says, I know they didn't because I did a
Oh, because
background check on all of my employees. And
yes,
anybody who's doing this stuff,
would
odds
not
are
have
they
been
have a,
hired.
well, they obviously, whoever's doing these murders has a past. I think it's what he
Yeah.
says.
But
So,
he'd also said he learned his lesson because the one time he did hire somebody without checking, and it burned him too,
and
right?
he got robbed and he said, it's my fault for not doing the background check. Like I was
So
asking to get robbed.
I do have to go back to one thing we forgot. We talked about Wilford Brimley. He actually did get killed too.
Yes.
Sorry
Which
to brush over that, but
which is part of like, here's my question about that scene. It's at a gas station. He goes in, he buys a pack of cigarettes. He goes out, and this is after they're dusting for prints. Like they've been working long nights and they've all been at the police station or whatever, working on dusting prints. But he goes and gets a pack of cigarettes, goes out to his car, pulls one out immediately, right? And then figures out he can't light it. So he needs to go back in to get something to light it with. And that's when he notices the girl, the cashier's gone.
and the whole place is
So
torn up.
so that's probably a minute has passed. So you're telling me that the deputy, the murderer, was hiding somewhere in there or was in the back room and came in, had a struggle with the girl, fought with her, tied her up, bound her up, put her in the bathroom in less than like 60 seconds?
And he couldn't
Is he
wait
is
long
he a
enough for the other guy
freaking
to
rodeo
leave.
clown? What is he? So, and then question number two, where was he hiding when the older deputy goes in to see what's going on?
Yeah, I don't know.
So those are my questions I have for Richard whenever we have him on the podcast.
I'm sure he'd love to come on.
He'll come on. So yeah, and we that's when he dies, and then we don't know if the girl is still alive.
Yeah. And he
And
tells
that's
you that so there's only in watching through it a second time, there's only one thing that gave you a tell early on in the movie. And it's when Terry asks the sheriff if he thinks the person doing all this stuff can be forgiven. Like, do you think there's a chance that they can repent and move on from this kind of stuff? If, since they're struggling with whatever it is. That was the only time I'm like, huh, there's like the hint right there when he's asking about that.
but oh, man, but then he also says too, like, do you think she's still alive? and like we'll find her. Like he's so like into finding this person. And the one thing too is like, and I guess Richard did a good job of hiding who the murderer was, because even the beginning murder, the first murder, the kid doesn't look nervous at all that they passed that car. You think he
He
would have
never does with any of it.
any of it. And even when they go to the porn guy's house, like he grabs the guy and throws him against the wall without being asked to, as if, yeah, this is the guy. I'm like, so either I mean, I know it's just a dumb movie, but not a dumb movie, it's just a movie, but
Even when so there when he's
he
saying that
sold it. He
prayer,
sold the fact that he wasn't guilty at all, right? Or he was
yeah.
the murderer.
And then there's the part when I was watching, I was like, I wonder if there's going to be some kind of tell here because the lady, what is her name, Pam? She's saying a prayer that they'll be able to find the killer or whatever, and he's like fully in it, like his eyes are closed the whole time, and there's no indication that
That's what I'm
this is
saying.
all a
It's almost like
ruse.
either he has split personalities where he's, anyways, doesn't realize that he's the killer.
Yeah. And then you come to find out that so he ran the prints on his deputy and he finds them that he doesn't match somebody whose name's Terry, whatever his name was. It actually was somebody there was somebody named Terry
Who
in
drowned?
Snowflake
Yeah, in Arizona, right?
in Arizona that had died on a youth trip shortly after coming home from their mission. And instead, so there's
They,
this other guy who is the deputy, and he took on this personality and this life of this other guy from Arizona. He said that he went on a mission, he did all this stuff, and but the other guy, his real life, he'd killed a little redhead girl or something like that. That's what they say. I don't think he killed her. Did they say he didn't kill her?
no, well,
Like
no,
he nearly killed her.
the girl from that moved to LA,
Well,
he
but there
killed.
was it was
And the
from
girl
his
was
youth.
rock climbing, and they said it was a rock climbing accident. She died. He killed her.
Right. But it was from when he took on this new personality is because he went to prison for like a year after.
Oh, right. For I don't know who or
Yeah, it was
what.
like it was a little girl in Arizona and she had red hair. He'd almost killed her, but I don't think he did. And then um he went to prison, changed his life, and then he wasn't heard from again.
Well, he found God in
He found
prison,
God, right.
and that haven't heard from again. But he took the
The other guy's life.
name.
Yeah. And then once all this is kind of coming out, like he shows a little bit of remorse. The girl, she's dead. She's buried by some Joshua trees, which there's no Joshua trees in Utah, nobody knew. But he buried her out there where they also would find that original girl from Hollywood. So it's weird that he put some of them in different places, but then there's two of them that he put in the same spot.
Which seems weird. I was wondering too, is that it sounds like it'd been a while since that girl left for LA.
Yeah.
So he did really well and not killing anybody. And then maybe, and they say the girl in the car, the first murder, that she had Arizona license plate, so that he probably pulled her over and she recognized him, and
Recognized
that's why.
him, right.
And then did that just trigger him to like, oh, that was fun, I want to kill again? But it sounds like he was doing
Mm-hmm.
pretty well for a
Yeah.
while,
Maybe he
not
was at least
killing people.
trying.
Or at least he was a lot better at hiding the fact that he's murdering people, the two he killed before. But
Right. But at this point, then it's like um he shows remorse and then he kind of flips and you see like a sinister look and he's kind of not really sorry for what he's done.
then he starts blaming the sheriff.
Yeah, he's like, you should have checked. It was your fault. And that leads into just he's like, well, I'm just gonna shoot you in the head. No, I'm just kidding. He starts loading his gun and he's warning him.
Well,
He's
he's
got
cleaning it, like he tore the thing apart. So
mm-hmm.
he has to put the whole dumb thing back together, which takes more than 10 seconds to do. So that's the one thing that's always, I guess you could say, bugged me about the movie is why the sheriff just sits there and watches him put the gun back together.
Yeah. He
But
should have got
I
to
was
the
trying to justify it. So here's my justification is that he's kind of injured from his car accident. He doesn't have anybody. Well, that's the whole thing too. I guess you could have called another guy. I mean, he's a bishop. You can call one of the priesthood leaders to come over. but
And
he
he's
couldn't
never.
manhandle that guy all by himself. So if he resisted arrest, he wouldn't be able to manhandle him.
Mhm.
So I think that's why he puts the cuffs on the table. Like, here, you put these on. But at the same time, why not grab the gun from him so he can't put it together? And then if he
Right.
fights you, then you put your gun out. Then if you know what I mean, it just seemed
It just was more climactic this way, Nate.
it was way yeah. But at the same time, it's just like, come on,
Doesn't make
man,
sense. Come
come on,
on, man.
man.
Agreed. Yeah. And then, yeah, I mean, he ends up not putting the gun down, is acting, he's like, am I going to shoot myself or am I going to shoot you? And so he doesn't take that gamble and he ends up shooting him. And
Well, it looks like he points the gun at the sheriff.
yeah,
But that's my question too. So say he does shoot the sheriff.
but he doesn't shoot the
What?
deputy because he is the deputy.
Uh, that song. Oh, then what happens? What does he tell his wife? What
Well,
is he?
she's just like freaking out and she's like, runs
Well, she doesn't
over.
know what's
And
going on. She's been in the other room.
yeah, she tells him to get out of there. And yeah, did not go well for her. She did not have a happy ending in this movie. And yeah, they go on and live life. And then you get a scene of him at this was the scene that always stuck out to me from this movie was um he's at church and the sacrament comes around and he refuses to take the sacrament. So nobody in the whole congregation will take it either until he takes it. And then they go back to him and he finally takes it. And it's a very weird scene, but I get the drama of it, but it was another weird ending to the movie. And then, I was kind of hoping that he was going to have like some kind of love interest with the FBI lady, but she kind of just leaves. They almost were like setting it up in a way, or like she's going to join the church or something because she's reading the scriptures, but she just leaves. And that's kind of how the movie ends. It kind of ends on that note. It just kind of abruptly ends after everything. Like there's not really any redemption except that he took the sacrament, I guess.
Yeah, that's a good. I mean, he did good. And in the cinematic world, I think he did a good job of creating the emotions, all the emotions.
Mm-hmm.
This jump
Yeah.
scares, the who done it, the could it be him? Could it be always a him? There was never a question. It was a girl.
Never a
That's
question, right?
sexist. Um, anyways, I guess anyway. And then the whole emotional scene at the end with the sacrament and like, it's good. I think overall it's good. I think it's a good movie. I give it a thumbs up.
Yeah, it's a good movie. I enjoyed watching it again. I liked the first time. Second time, it was fun to kind of watch for the hints as the movie goes on. But yeah, if you haven't seen it, it's definitely a great way to see some of Springville and Mapleton and some of those locations, and a good church adjacent film.
There you go.
Thank you for listening to This Is a Place podcast.
See you next week.